In this week's episode, we talk about business finance, leadership, and Babylon. Hi and welcome to episode 13 of Business Greenhouse TV. Back in the big boardroom today, we've got an intimate group of clients who have come in. Today, the whole goal of today that I'm going to take them through is digging deeper and finding the profit that is already in their business. So without doing any more strategy, we're going to find the profit that's already there, the latent profits. We're going to have a whole bunch of fun doing that. So pretty solid questions that we've got today. So let's get straight into the show. Michelle, what is our first question?
Tim Cottrell asks, when is it appropriate to get a business loan?
Tim Cottrell, running Cottrell's Plumbing and Gas over in Perth, West Australia. A big shout out to you. So when is a good time to get a business loan? Okay, so there's a few aspects to this that I really want to cover off. You know, first and foremost, there are a lot of people that question, loans and debt and finance. I want to lead off by saying debt is not a sin. Therefore, lots of debt is not a sin. So let's keep that out of the equation, okay? It's also not a real smart strategy to always be using debt. And if we look at the global financial crisis of 2008 and beyond, that was because we have debt on top of debt on top of debt, and it's unsustainable. So if we look at it on a personal level, we can actually do the same thing. We can just use debt and keep going. So it's not always a bad idea. Like, I'm not anti-debt. There are plenty of people out there who are anti-debt. I'm not anti-debt. I'm just anti-unsustainable debt. I'm anti-debt that doesn't have an intention to pay it off. So it can be quite smart. Here's my concern about getting finance. A lot of people go and get finance to plug a hole in their business. They actually have a fundamental problem in their business, which is the reason why they're going to get finance. The problem with doing that is all you're doing is adding water to a leaky bucket. So then all you do is burn through that bit of finance. Now you've got a business that's leaking and you've got another payment to make on that finance. You've got to fix the problem. You've got to fix the problem in the business. Where is a business bleeding where it needs to go and get finance, okay? So in a small few cases, the time I would recommend finance is when we're scaling up the marketing. You use that money for nothing but buying customers, okay? Not trying to find out how to pay this and not pay the suppliers and things like that. You only use finance for scaling up. You don't use it. If you're using it for anything else, it's because you've got a problem and you should fix the problem first, okay? So yes, if you're going to use it just to go, if you know that it costs you $1,000 to buy a customer and you go to the bank and borrow $100,000, you've now got 100 new customers that you can go and expand your business with. That's a smart strategy, using it to scale up. The minute you're using it for a problem, like you're not collecting, therefore you don't have any cash flow, or your margins aren't high enough, therefore you're not making any money. As soon as you're funding a problem in the business, you're on dangerous ground because you've got to fix the problem before you bring the finance in, okay? So what you don't want to be doing is patching the business by bringing in capital, because you'll just have to keep doing that time and time again. Now, here's a cool thing. There is an alternative, though, to getting finance, and that is getting really good at marketing and selling. You can sell your way out of trouble. You can sell your way. Like, if there's a problem in your business, go to market, go and see thousands of people, go and tell them about your products or services, get them to buy from you, and you've got the money without going to the bank. You don't have a payment. You're not slave to the lender. It's just a better system. So I'm not saying that one is better than the other. You've got to look at the circumstance. But if you can sell your way to get the money just by being a better salesperson, better marketer, then I would do it that way. If your business is fundamentally very sound and you just want to scale really quickly, then yes, go and use finance for that. But take it over a short period of time and make sure you're paying it down very, very quickly so that you get the leverage back of the whole thing being yours without those additional payments. Very solid question. Juggling the debt thing is very, I get a lot of questions around that and how it looks and is it right and wrong from a Christian perspective. So hopefully I've covered off that for you here today. So yes, use money, but use finance, but use it really, really wisely. A better model is just learn how to become a killer salesperson and go and market like mad. Very solid question. Today's show brought to you by Twining's Peppermint Tea. Really enjoying these at the moment. Let's get straight into question 2. Michelle, what is our question?
Alistair Randall asks, what is the best way to grow a team?
Alistair Randall, let me give you a shout out. I've just connected with Alistair, great guy, been living over in the States and Hawaii for many years. back in Australia, building business, on the hunt, really good guy. Great to be connected with. So how do you build a team? I think there's stages to answer this. I think first and foremost, a team grows with good leadership. Like, you can put all the structures in place, you can have all the systems and processes, but if there's bad leadership, it doesn't grow. It stays the same, it stays boring, a culture forms that is not conducive to success. So the first and foremost, like, I get a lot of people say to me, my team are underperforming. I'm like, well, look at yourself. The first rule of leadership, the number one rule, like what I'm about to tell you saves you having to go through like 6 years of leadership coaching. Everything is your fault. That is the first rule of leadership. Good and bad, everything is your fault. Like, you set the tone, you set the culture. So as the leader, you want to build a great team, you have to be that great leader for the people to follow, for people to aspire to be able to motivate and draw out from people how to take people on a journey and to get there. So assuming that you have that great leadership, and obviously I know you and you have those traits, but I want to make this general to the general audience. After the fact, if we're talking about employing, people need to have a progression in mind, okay? See, if you go back, 60, 70, 80, 90 years, people were just numbers on payroll. We had massive organizations, and so people were just working, doing their job. Now we have to treat our staff as individuals, the people on a team. Like, we have to relate to them as individual people. It cannot just be like the them and us of the staff and the owner of the business. You've got to get with your staff one-on-one. What makes Mary tick? What makes Bob tick? What makes Phil tick? And build that one-on-one relationship. Find out what are the things that they're interested in. What are they like? And that's where you're going to get the greatest leverage now from a team. And then so you've got to have, they want to feel like they're valued now. And so that's, that is a culture that isn't in many organizations. That one-on-one, how's your world going? What can we do as a job to help you prosper as a person outside of here? Like taking a keen interest in them. They also need to know that, there is a progression. Some people don't want a progression, in which case you don't need to give them one. That's the benefit of knowing them individually. Some people do want a progression. They want to know that if they start at the bottom, they can take the top job or somewhere along the journey. And you need to highlight that, if you do this, you'll go here. If you do this, you'll go here. And there's this reward for you, and this reward for you, and this reward for you. So you've got to give them that. Like, people need to know that they're not capped. Some people love capped, but that's only a few. Most people want to grow. They want to become better, do more, earn more, create more, be more involved. And you've got to create that pathway for those people. So just to finish it off, I just want to look at, the difference between sort of Gen X, Gen Y, baby boomers, because they have some different traits. And if we don't get this right, you'll really miss the mark. If we look at baby boomers, like their number one value generally is loyalty. They're there because they're in the twilight years, they're working for the last few years, they don't want to switch jobs, they just want to do a solid job between now and the time that they retire, which is fine. They're an excellent group. We need those in an organization. They turn up on time, they put in a solid day's work, they have an amazing work ethic, and they get the job done. If we look at the Gen X's, these are an interesting group because there's never been an organization or group this big on the planet that have had so much affluence. These guys have got everything. They've got the 2 cars, they've got the house, they've got the mortgages, they've got the private school kids, whatever they've got. Like, that group of people there, they have loyalty, but they will happily jump for a better offer because they're trying to, move ahead. They want better things in life, okay? So you've got to find a way to reward them well, keep them, create a good environment, and that'll keep them staying. If we look at the Gen Ys, and these guys get a really bad rap in society, and the people that are giving them a bad rap are usually the Gen Xers and the baby boomers, which is interesting because we kind of want to be careful what we say. These guys are going to be creating the wealth that looks after you when you're in a retirement village. So I want to make sure that we look after those people, okay? They're just different. In some respects, they're better. In some respects, they're worse. But when we look at Gen Y, they will change your organization faster than any generation in history. If you can harness them to be interested in your cause, then they will do more for your organization than any other generation have ever done. So that's super exciting. You've got to harness those people. Now, how do you do it? Red Bull and pizza. Keep them motivated, keep them excited, keep them engaged, and that's how you're going to keep them there. Now, they won't clean their room, but they will run a $1 billion McDonald's franchise. So with systems and processes and progression, they want it. But they want rewards. They want the little things that matter to them. When they do a good job, they want public pat on the back. They also want, here's a gym membership for really, exceeding this month. Here's a new mobile phone. They want stuff like that. That's what keeps them interested. If you don't do that, then you're not going to harness them. Very solid. Let's get straight to Word of the Week. So this week I want to go Old Testament and I want to look at Daniel. Okay, Daniel is an absolute legend in my eyes. What he managed to achieve was super, and we can learn a lot from his life. So I want to go to Daniel 1:8, but a little bit of a precursor. Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon has come to Jerusalem, besieged it. Now he's looking for some people to work for him, but he only wants the very best, good-looking, handsome, rugged, people that can do a great job. So he finds Daniel and a couple of his buddies and brings them in to work for the king, gives them their new name, which is, a Babylonian name. Very interesting. I don't know how many of us would handle that, taking our name away and giving us a Babylonian name. There's an interesting exercise of being covert and overt in there, because they wanted to get in, but they couldn't care less about what they were called. They were given a Babylonian name. So they get inside. Now, the guard is put in charge of looking after them, and they've been assigned a daily amount of the raw food. So let's go straight to there right now. So Daniel 1:8. They've been given food, they've been given a new name, and Daniel right here makes this one statement that I think as believers we all need to own. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. Daniel resolved not to defile himself. Let's think about that for a moment. Because as entrepreneurs, as business people, this is just important to us as anybody else. See, the Babylonian system that Daniel didn't want to let in is because he wanted to stand apart. He wanted to be different. He didn't want to conform to the Babylonian system. How about us though? The Babylonian system is rife. Greed, mammon, witchcraft, overthrowing CEOs, hostile takeovers, like manipulation, fudging numbers, letting staff go when you shouldn't have done, not claiming, all your income, claiming too many expenses, keeping cash and not putting it through the books. The Babylonian system is everywhere. So we need to resolve not to defile ourselves. Now so here's an interesting little side note. This is kind of hard message, because what we're talking about here is the unrighteousness that I see in business. And this isn't going to win me 1,000 fans, because it's not a watered down message. But I'm good with that. I would rather have 12 people watching my show that are taking it seriously than thousands who have got that just want some sort of inspiration to get through a week to come back again. I'm not interested. I want to tackle the important stuff. And here's one area, which is why I pulled on it. Daniel resolved not to defile himself. He didn't want the Babylonian system invading his life. But how about us? Where is the Babylonian system affecting your decision making? How are you handling your finances? Is it in a Babylonian way? Are there small bits of the Babylonian system, this greed-based system around us, that are crept into you or your business? Because if they are, they've got to get out. We've got to get unrighteousness out of our business if we want God to add super to our natural. If we want to start walking in supernatural, we can't have the natural not in order. We've got to deal with sin, and we've got to deal with unrighteousness. And it's the little things that count. It's the little things, like you've got a business credit card or whatever, and you go and fill up your wife's car for fuel or gas, to my American friends, because you can, but she doesn't really work in the business. That's unrighteousness. Every time you do those little things, what you're saying is, God, I don't trust you enough to be my source and my supply, and that's not good enough. So just like Daniel, and I'm talking to me just as much as I'm talking to you, we always need to be working on where have we bowed our knee to the little bits of Babylon. Just like Daniel, we need to get a resolve. He resolved not to defile himself. It's a strong resolve that we need. And when we do, the world will look upon us and go, wow, you guys actually have something that we don't, and it'll be attractive to them, and they will run to us like bees to honey. Pretty solid episode this week. Hey, listen, I'd like to get something from you. This week, what's the one thing that really leapt out to you in this episode? Go to the comments box and just make a comment about that. I'd love to get a comment. If you've never commented on my show, I want a comment in the comments box. I want to see what's the stuff that's resonating with you. Out of today's show, what's the one little take home? And go pop it in the comments box for me. And I'm going to liaise with you there, and I want to see what's the stuff that's that God's birthing in amongst all of you who are watching. And so do that for me if you mind. That would be excellent. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.